What's up, y'all? All right, I'm back. I'm coming to you from our self-built homemade sound booth for this part, the next part, which is part 5 in my sister Cece's aneurysm story. I thought it would be cool to come in here. I was actually recording Truce 2, which is book 9 in the War series by T Styles, by my partner T Styles, and I do the audiobooks for it. So I thought it'd be cool to come to you guys today with today's story from the booth. This is just moving blankets. So my wife is just she's one of the smartest people that I know personally. She is not anything in this world that somebody else is doing that she cannot do, and I just believe that. I mean, of course, she can't perform brain surgery or open heart surgery, but if she studied it and somebody showed her, I believe she could. So I don't even put that past her. But we wanted to start turning all of our novels that we publish, which is over 100 now, into audiobooks for the Audible platform. And we were going to outsource it and let somebody else do it, and contacted a company, but business was not good at all. So before we saw the signs and before we got into giving them our files, we pulled back. And she said, look, they can do it, I can do it. You know, we looked around, tried to find studio pricing, and there's not a lot of studios that will accompany or will be able to, or have rather, I'm not gonna say a company because they have the equipment. They don't have a lot of studios that are experienced in doing audiobook recording. Most of them are studios, they think in music. So they don't have pricing set for it because it can take hours and hours. So it's kind of up and coming. If you have a sound studio, you should consider that because you can get a lot of money from it. There are a lot of people out here turning their books into audio. And, you could get a lot of money from it. So you should probably start trying to set up your studio and have hours and pricing available for that. Anyway, I'm getting all over the place. I just wanted to show you that we did it ourselves. We was like, okay, we're not about to just go into these studios and, try to build this up with them. Let's just do it ourselves. So my wife looked online to figure out how to build one, a makeshift home soundproof booth. And she sent the video to me. I went out to Lowe's and got the equipment. It's literally just lighting pole stands, the PVC piping, the white, piping, plastic-like piping that you connect with a T connector at the top. So you connect the PVC piping, the T connector together, and then it goes on top of the lighting stand. And then we put some zip ties and a moving blanket and connected it to that. So it goes up and down because the lighting stands, of course, adjust. So it can go up and down. It can adjust in height. And that's it. We got like 1, 2, 3. And then I'll have like a 4th one closed in front of me. And then I'm just in the booth. Here is the mic right here. And the little pop filter. It's on the half. Actually, I probably need to get maybe a new one. But and that's it. I'm in here. Boom. Doing all my voices and reading the story. Anyway, so thought it would be cool to show you guys that. And come to you today with Cece's story. 5th part of Cece's story from the booth. So anyway, so when I left off, it was August 21st. It was my mom's birthday, and Cece was now able to leave Anne Arundel Hospital in Annapolis. She pulled out her trach after she's got the shunt placed into her head now to collect the draining, and her skull has been replaced. So she's pretty much on the mend now, and we're just in the wait and see. She should just be healing, and now time for rehabilitation. So she goes to her third rehabilitation center, and got there on August 21st. And at this point, she'd been moved around so much back and forth. She's tired. It's not even a big deal anymore to her. We get the orientation, we get the rules, all of this all over again. They're going to assess her. So speech is going to come in, physical therapy is going to come in, occupational therapy is going to come in and assess her and see what her needs are. And this place provides long-term care and short-term care rehabilitation. So being as though Cece was not able to turn everything back around and be back on her feet or even ready to go, she was going to more than likely need long-term care. So we had to fill out paperwork for long-term care coverage. Because everything was extensive, and Cece was not married, did not have any children at the time this happened to her. And, well, she don't have them now either, but didn't have children, not married at the time. And so she needed someone. She didn't have a living will, which is basically something that you put in place in the instance, like now, where she's still alive, but things need to be cared for. She needs to be cared for. She didn't have a power of attorney. So somebody had to go to the court and basically be able to take care of her needs, and she can't do it for herself. So someone needs to be able to speak for her, speak on her behalf, and do things for her. My mom is not in the best state to do it, be the person to do that. She had of her own. She had 3 strokes that she didn't even know nothing about. When she finally had her 3rd stroke in 2012 or something like that. This one was the big one, and this is before Cece. Cece found her in her room on the floor, and she couldn't speak and she couldn't move and all that. And she had to go to the hospital. And when the doctor assessed her at the emergency room, it was determined that she had had 2 other strokes, maybe in her sleep or something like that. And it could have been the TIA, the small ones. But anyway, she was not in any condition to be caring for someone else. So, her girlfriend, Cece's girlfriend, was going to do it. And I was all for that. I'm with her. I'm stood beside her to do that. But when we got to court to do it, I think my mother tried to take us to court to do it or something. It was crazy. To be honest, some of this stuff is a blur because I was either not there, angry, or whatever. So some of this is a blur. But I believe we went to court, my mom's doing, to try to get power of attorney over Cecilia. And because my mother did it in district court, it did not, and Cece was not a resident of district court any longer. She had been living in Maryland for longer than 6 months. So they couldn't do anything in court, and I decided, okay, my mom is not in the best place to do this. She can barely take care of herself. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I went, instead of having her girlfriend have to deal with it and deal with my mom, I went ahead and did it and filed. So I got guardianship of Cece, so that I could fill out her paperwork and apply for long-term care. And I'm her guardian to this day. So that was a nightmare. That's a lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff that has to be done. But the judge, I applied, and it took a couple of months before it was granted, but it was granted with no problem. The judge actually thanked me because apparently a lot of people don't step in to do that, I guess, for their loved ones. But nothing for me. So she's there now. She's going through therapy. I'm going to try to put some pictures up here to assess where she is. Speech is not good at all. She's not speaking because although she doesn't have the trach, she's just not speaking. She is making sound. Told you she cried a lot. But at this point, she's kind of coming around more, so she doesn't have the buildup of fluid. It's making her feel crazy on her head any longer because it's draining. Her incisions and all of the cuts and the drains that she had out here, all of this is starting to heal, and her hair is coming back and is growing. She's lost a lot of weight now because she's only being fed, and she was being fed intravenously in the hospitals, and now through a feeding tube, so she's only getting like liquid nutrients. So she lost a lot of weight, considerable amount of weight. And I guess she, in my opinion, just looking at her, she's kind of trying to come to the reality of what she is and what's going on now. Because every now and again we get some smiles out of her. She didn't cry as much, even though she did as much as she did in the hospital or Anne Arundel Hospital after she pulled out her trach. But she had her moments, of course, and she's not talking. So speech was more trying to help her with swallowing and getting her to try to say some words, and she was not there yet. So it's a slow process. Let me just say that anybody that's gone through this, as much stuff as Cece has gone through, because I've read books on it and heard people's stories, and they be similar, but no one that I have come across had gone through everything that Cece had gone through, and come out of it, or survived it rather. So we're dealing with therapies and trying to get her to see where she is. She has weakness still on her right side, so she's not able to move her hand. But my mother-in-law visited her in the hospital on her birthday when she found out, and she came to see her in August. And she told her, don't wait on anybody to do therapy for you. You have got to open your hand. You got to open it yourself. This is your hand. You got to open it. You got to keep it open and do your things for you. Don't wait on them to do that. And even though Cece was crying and upset, she heard her, because to this day, Cece would just zone out and just open her hand and just, so we knew she was there and she could comprehend, things, even if she was not verbalizing them. And that's part of the reason that Cece does not have a draw to pain. There are some people that have strokes, and they have the weakness, and they will draw up like this and have no movement, and it's very hard to maneuver. When we went to the doctor last week, the doctor said that she had seen a patient whose hand was so drawn up that her nails were starting to dig into her skin. So that happens. So with my mother-in-law telling my sister, don't wait, you do it yourself, she had gotten used to just doing this, and now Cece's hand just opens with no problem. It's no tightness there. And she does it, like I said, to this day. So we're going through all of those things now. I'm doing the paperwork and all of this. And then 2 weeks after she was there, I get a phone call that she's got an infection. So she has an infection in the area where her feeding tube is. Now, that happens, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't. If they're caring for them the way they should, that shouldn't happen. I'll just say that. So I'm like, okay, so what's got to happen? Well, she's got to go to the hospital because, it's a bad infection. I'm like, okay, what hospital is she going to? The closest one we're going to take her to is Southern Maryland. I'm like, okay, so I'm an hour away. I'm like, I'm on my way. I go down there, I meet her, go to Southern Maryland, and then I'm filling out, the paperwork and stuff for her. Of course, she can't do it herself. The nursing facility sent some paperwork and information, but, it's still stuff I needed to fill out and authorize and all. So we're probably there a couple hours, and then they determined that Cece had the brain aneurysm, that she has a shunt in her head. They almost don't want to touch her, because I don't think that they were equipped to handle someone in her condition. So they're like, I don't think we're going to be able to have her here. Something goes wrong. We can't. We don't have the ability to do anything here. So they had to send her back to Anne Arundel, which I was happy about. I know it was far. It was a far ride. She went by ambulance, and I followed the ambulance. But I was happy because I knew that hospital. I knew she would get the best care. So we ended up there. By this time, it's probably about 10 o'clock at night. Back in Anne Arundel, they brought her in, admitted her, and told me that they would be treating her for the infection. So they did. That was pretty much everything they had to do there, because I don't think anything else was wrong at the time. But they treated her for it, cleared it up. She was there about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, before she was able to come back. Now, although they, we had the issue with the infection, from the research I was doing, this was like the lesser all evils, I guess, at the time. So I decided to let her go back there. There were other facilities, but from the reviews on Google around the area, and they just weren't good. And then I was told that there are a lot of facilities in Maryland. There was hundreds of facilities in Maryland, over 100 some facilities in Maryland, but they just are not great. So the location, I tried to have her come all the way out to like Johns Hopkins. They had a facility, and I visited it personally to see if this was something good for her. And it would have been cool for me, because I'm in the Baltimore County area, and that's the city, so it would take me 20-30 minutes to get there. As it stands now, it took me over an hour to get to where she was. So that was cool for me, but I was thinking of my mom who had to drive. I was thinking of her girlfriend who had to drive, family members that came in town, or mostly everybody was located in the DMV, down in that area, D.C., Maryland, Virginia-like area. So I was like, okay, Forestville wasn't bad. They didn't try to kill her, and it's not an old folks home, and the location is okay. So I decided, all right, she can go back there after the 2 weeks in the hospital for the infection. But we got stipulations, and now I'm on them, extra, because I was already on them. It's funny, it got to the point where if they saw me coming, because I was there every day, and I pop up, never knew what time I was coming. I would come after hours. I would come early in the morning. I would come midday, weekends. I was there every day, but you just never knew the time of the hour I was coming. And I got it like that so that they would make sure that they took care of her. Because you just didn't want to hear my mouth. You damn sure didn't want to hear my wife's mouth. My wife would go down there on her own sometimes and just pop up. We had one situation where my wife came around the corner, and the nurse at the nurse's station took off into Cece's room to make sure everything was cool. So, yeah, we were that family. Oh, and God, my aunt, when she came in town from North Carolina to visit, ooh, they didn't want that. And she would sit there because she was visiting. So she came in town to see Cece. So she spent 4, 6, 8 hours with Cece all day long. And they damn sure ain't want that. They knew her too. Sure, they knew her. They knew her. So front office knew her too. So anyway, this is the stuff that's going on now. So she's back at Forestville, they have to reassess her every time. Even though she went to the hospital and it was only gone 2 weeks, they had to do everything over from scratch, reassess her, occupational therapy, all that again. In my opinion, it's not necessary, but these were their rules. So we're just now trying to get adjusted to life in this rehabilitation center and trying to get Cece back on track, or even figuring out what the new track is going to look like. And she could not walk. She could not barely sit up now still on her own. So they couldn't just keep her in the bed all day. So what they did was they would bring this big contraption. I forget the name of it. Oh, the lift. They would bring the lift to scoop under her, like this cover thing. I'll put a picture in. Scoop up under her body, roll it to the side, scoop it under the body, put it up under her. It had these hooks connected to this this crane thing that would lift her out of the bed and place her down into a geriatric chair so that she can, not just be in the bed all day if she wasn't in therapy. Because she couldn't do it for herself. And she even assisted Cece, was like not sitting up and things on her own. So that was every day. They would get her dressed, put her in this lift. If she had to be changed, she had to go back from the geriatric chair through the lift, back in the bed, be changed, and brought back. So that was her day. And after a while, my wife was like, listen, Cece has to learn how to do this stuff again. And these contraptions and all this big stuff that they using to get her out of bed is probably doing damage to her, thinking that it's a big production, that I need to get out of the bed. And she don't need all that. We just need to be sitting her up daily for a few minutes at a time, as long as she can take it, to get her strength back up. Once I told you she was smart, because that's exactly what I did. And that's how Cece stopped having to use the lift. We would just sit her up for bits at a time. I would go behind her and kind of hold her with my elbow or my arm, or I would sit behind her and just hold her up. And then after a while, she was able to sit up on her own, hold her head up on her own, and sit, even if it was for a minute. It got better and better over time. And they were able to do away with all that contraption, the lift and everything. She was still getting to the jerry chair, but now, after a while, probably a few months, we were able to transfer her ourselves. No lift, no nothing. Transfer her from side of the bed into the chair so that she can go out. And that's how she started coming back to form, or to new form, as I say. So, yeah, I can't speak enough about Toy, man. She's, I don't know where she gets it from. The strength that she has, the knowledge that she has. I do know, she reads everything. She studies everything. She researches everything. And this was no different. When Cece was going through this, and even to this day, she'll get a feeling or a message and tell me, look, you need to, you probably need to call him. You probably need to stay on top of him about this. And it helps me so much, because when you have so much going on and you're in charge of someone else's, well-being, it can be overwhelming. It really can. And to have her help me through this, man, is, I just can't say any. I just can't say enough. I'm so grateful. So grateful. So, I'm going to stop here. I've got to go through my pictures to see some other pivotal moments, because this is the important stuff that I need to get out, because this is the part where people say, or doctors, whoever, say somebody can't do something, or they'll never be able to do something. And I'm here to say, well, we did. They can, you will, you can get through it. So I'm going to stop it here. And when I come back for part 6, I will pick up on the rest of the story. Thank you for continuing to follow us. Thank you for subscribing. Please continue to subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Because a lot more did happen. Because now we're into probably, I would say maybe around December of 2015. Yeah. And I got to carry you into 2016 and the changes that came. So please make sure you come back. Subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my wife's channel, Author T Styles. Subscribe to her other YouTube channel, Best Friend in a Handbag. And yeah, thanks again. See you soon.